Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Janice Butchko, Assistant Director of Patient Care at the MDS Foundation, and joining me is my colleague, Ashley Moncrief, Director of Patient Care. We will be moderating today's webinar. We are pleased to have Margaret Martin and Heather Knutson from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society joining us today to present on MDS nutrition, fueling your body for strength. Margaret is the Manager of Nutrition Education. She is a licensed dietitian and nutritionist in the state of Tennessee, as well as a certified diabetes care and education specialist. She has worked with the Leukemia and Lymphomas Nutrition Education Service Center for over 7 years, where she contributes to the Nutrition Handbook, the LLS Manager and Smart app, and the website. Margaret graduated from the University of Alabama with a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics and received her master's degree in Nutrition Science and Public Health Education from the University of Tennessee. With more than 20 years of experience in clinical nutrition, Margaret has also worked in hospital inpatient and outpatient nutrition services, as well as the insurance industry, providing nutrition consultation, service assistance, and web-based nutrition education. Heather Knutson, a Minnesota native, is board certified in oncology nutrition and a registered dietitian. She's enjoyed working in oncology for over a decade. Heather earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in dietetics from the University of North Dakota and her master's degree from Rosalind Franklin University in Chicago. She is an advocate for personalized care and feels honored to be invited into the lives of her clients during their personal journey with cancer. I would like to thank Tayo Oncology for supporting this webinar program. There will be a live question and answer segment for all participants at the end of this presentation. It is my pleasure to introduce Margaret Martin and Heather Knutson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today for our program. We're so excited to have you here. And whether you are watching this live or watching from the MDS website at a later time, my name is Ellie Darrow. I am the Nutrition Program Coordinator for the LLS, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Nutrition Education Services Center. We're also sometimes referred to as NESC. I am so excited to have you with us today, and we hope that you enjoy the webinar that we've planned for you. I'm proud to introduce MDS Nutrition, Fueling Your Strength. Throughout the presentation, there will be some links to web pages and resources for you to explore. Wherever there is a link icon in the PowerPoint, that will indicate a suggested reading or research for you to take a look at. We will send as many links into the chat as possible, but you can also search them by looking up the title with the word LLS into your search bar. You will be able to access the presentation on the MDS website shortly after our presentation wraps up. We have a quick disclaimer to share here. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society offers the Nutrition Education Services Center for information purposes only. It is not intended to substitute for the advice of your healthcare team or provide medical diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Please seek the advice of your healthcare team before making any changes to your medical plan, diet, or physical activity. As I mentioned before, we represent the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Nutrition Education Services Center. This program would not happen without LLS's dedication to its patient and their caregivers and providing resources to improve their cancer journey. The NESC is your center for all things nutrition. We proudly offer nutrition consultations with our dietitians over the phone, free of charge to cancer patients of any cancer type. We also host a number of print, video, and audio materials on our website. That will be llsnutrition.org. All of the materials are available to you for free. I will share some more details about these offerings at the end of our program today. At this time, I'm happy to introduce our first dietitian, Heather, who will kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Ellie, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. I have always had a love of nutrition and interest in science. As a teen, I began to see the impact of positive food choices on my sports and performance. And I also witnessed my grandma reverse osteoporosis with nutrition, and these experiences just really opened my eyes to the power that nutrition had. My interest in oncology nutrition began after supporting several friends and family members through cancer, and then having the opportunity to work with people who were living with cancer in the hospital before it became my full-time work. I was amazed how inspiring this community was in the face of adversity, and that was the beginning of a long road that brings me here today. So let's get started by setting some groundwork when it comes to selecting an eating plan when you are living with MDS. And Ellie, would you mind going back one slide? Oops. Is there one in between there? Okay. So before we get to that, let's just set a little bit of groundwork. There are several options for good eating plans that provide good nutrition for MDS. There is not one right way to eat. There are many balanced and nutritious eating patterns. What works well for one person may not be a good fit for another. And the best eating plan is one that helps you to manage your side effects and supports and accommodates any of the health considerations that you may have. And it's very important that your eating plan fits within the food shopping and financial resources you have access to, and within your cooking abilities. Eating well does not need to be fancy or require any lengthy recipes. So why is it important when you are living with MDS to pay attention to nutrition? And kudos to you all for coming today and to the MDS Foundation. It shows that you value nutrition or are at least curious about it. So good nutrition is helpful to provide your body what it needs to repair itself and maintain your body's overall health, to maintain your muscle mass and your strength, and to retain your independence. It is helpful to reduce the side effects and severity of some side effects from MDS or treatments. It helps to protect your brain function, to help you experience the best quality of life that you can and reduce fatigue, and to support your immune system by providing your body with all the nutrients it needs to help you be as healthy as you can be. Nourishing your body with the best fuel you can helps to keep you strong and work towards these desired outcomes. Okay, next slide, please. So in the webinar today, we are going to address strategies to support good nutrition when you are living with MDS. We'll discuss eating a variety of foods, what types of foods to focus on, and what eating patterns to consider. Then we'll talk about how to identify evidence-based nutrition and why it's important to choose foods for nutrients instead of supplements. We'll discuss managing your side effects that can arise from your cancer diagnosis or cancer treatment, and talk about how you can keep your immune system strong. And we will share some evidence-based nutrition resources that may be helpful for you. Okay, next slide, please. Oops, next slide. Awesome, thank you. So our first strategy that we'll talk through is eating a variety of foods, especially plants. So through the next few slides, when I say plant-based diet, I am not referring to only eating plants. Animal-based foods can and do fit in a health-supporting diet. It's all in the amount or the ratio of foods on your plate. Of course, if you do want to only eat plant foods, we're happy to support you in that as well. So on the left side of this slide, we see more of a standard American plate. You can see that it's predominantly meat, maybe even a couple different types of meat on the plate, some processed carbohydrates, maybe fried carbohydrates, and there's just a little bit of green poking up in the back. As we transition from the plate on the left to the plate on the right, we shift the ratio of animal-based foods to more plant-based foods on the plate. The foods on the right side are primarily plant-based with moderate amounts of lean protein. And so the meals we have there is maybe a sub sandwich, maybe it has a little bit of tuna salad on it, maybe that's hummus, lots of veggies, maybe a slice of cheese. We've got some chili, which is nice and brightly colored. Maybe there's a little bit of ground turkey in there, some beans. We've got a bowl. It looks like maybe some pork, grains, lots of colorful veggies, and some veggie pizza with a lot of different colors on it. And so variety is really important. All foods have different nutrients to offer us. I would encourage you to look at the variety of foods that you consume over the course of a week. Next slide, please. Thank you. So eating more plant-based foods means eating more vegetables, fruits, beans, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds. And there are many reasons why we might want to add more plants to our diets. One of which is that plants contain a variety of compounds called phytochemicals, which is a fancy word for plant chemicals. Phytochemicals do good things in our bodies, such as support our immune system, reduce inflammation, prevent DNA damage, protect our healthy cells. They may inhibit cancer cell growth, slow the aging process, protect against heart disease, among many other benefits. And these are the kinds of things that we really want to happen. And so eating more plant-based foods can also help support a healthy body weight, which is associated with longevity. Next slide, please. So there are many different ways that you can apply a plant-based diet. We have 4 examples of evidence-based eating patterns listed here in no special order. We have the New American Plate, the Mediterranean Plate, or the Mediterranean Diet, My Plate, DASH Eating Plan. And all of these primarily plant-based eating patterns are supported by science and can be great options for an eating plan for MDS. You may also hear the anti-inflammatory diet discussed for cancer. The anti-inflammatory diet does not have any defined guidelines, so I didn't include it here. However, all 4 of these eating patterns shown are based on foods that can decrease inflammation in your body. So as we dive into each of these eating patterns, we can see they have many similarities. They focus on eating whole foods and emphasize a primarily plant-based diet. They recommend limiting intake of red meat. They encourage minimal processed food. They recommend limiting added sugar and salt. And they encourage fat sources, primarily from plant-based foods, such as avocados, nuts, seeds, and plant-based oils like olive oil. In the following slides, we'll review each of these eating patterns that may be a good option for you. So next slide, please. Thank you. So starting with the New American Plate. So this was designed by the American Institute for Cancer Research for cancer prevention and survival. It's the only one that is cancer specific. It is a super simple visual concept. And from the broader perspective, it focuses on the ratio of plant-based foods to animal-based foods on your plate. So it encourages you to fill your plate with 2/3 or more of plant-based foods, such as whole grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And animal-based foods can fill up to 1/3 of your plate, including lean proteins such as dairy, eggs, fish, poultry, and meat. Red meat is encouraged to be limited to 12 to 18 ounces per week or less. Red meat includes pork, beef, lamb, bison, venison. Processed meats are encouraged to be limited even further, which includes products such as bacon, sausage, hot dogs. Fatty fish, such as salmon, albacore tuna, cod, tilapia, and halibut, is encouraged 2 times a week or more. And the New American Plate is just a really great tool to apply when you are dining out or are away from home. It allows for a fair amount of variance and flexibility when you're planning meals. Next slide, please. So here we have the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet was organized in this pyramid fashion by the Cultural Food Traditions Organization, Old Ways, and the Harvard School of Public Health. It has demonstrated numerous health benefits, such as longevity, weight management, brain health, and the prevention of several chronic diseases, such as cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. A unique aspect of the Mediterranean diet that you'll see at the base of the pyramid here is the encouragement to include cooking and dining with others and participating in physical activity as able. And directly above that are those core foods of the Mediterranean diet, which again are those colorful plant-based foods such as vegetables, legumes, whole grains, herbs, and spices, which often get forgotten. Healthy fat, such as olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. And these are really encouraged to be the base of each meal. Again, fish and seafood here are suggested at least twice weekly. Moving up closer to the top of the pyramid, in the smaller sections, we have dairy, eggs, and poultry that are recommended to be consumed daily to weekly. And at the very top of the pyramid, we have red meat and sweets that are encouraged to be consumed sparingly. On the top left, you may notice some beverages. The bottom is a cup of water. I know it's kind of small on the screen there, but it really encourages good hydration from unsweetened beverages. And on the top, you'll notice wine. So it is important to acknowledge that wine is never helpful for cancer and less is better. If you do not currently consume alcohol, it is not recommended to start. If you do enjoy wine, the Mediterranean diet encourages it to be consumed with meals and limit it to moderate amounts, which is defined as no more than 2 5-ounce glasses per day for men and 1 5-ounce glass per day for women. When you are living with MDS, and especially if you are receiving treatment, please do talk to your doctor about what may be appropriate for you in your situation when it comes to alcohol consumption. Next slide, please. So next up is my plate. And this is based on the USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans from 2020 through 2025. It's the latest model of what you might remember as the food pyramid. And so much like the New American Plate, this pattern provides a really nice visual for setting up your plate. It encourages at least 3/4 of your plate to come from plant-based foods like fruit, vegetables, whole grains. It recommends lean protein sources, including a variety of both animal-based proteins, such as fish, poultry, and eggs, as well as plant-based proteins, such as beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and soy products. And the table on the right is just an example of the personalized guidance you can find on the myplate.gov website. It provides detailed recommendations on how many servings from a particular food group is suggested for you each day. And this includes individual recommendations for limiting added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. Next slide, please. And the final eating plan we'll discuss today is the DASH eating plan. And DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. The DASH eating plan is promoted by the National Institute of Health for reducing blood pressure. The DASH eating plan encourages a liberal intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and other lean proteins. It recommends limiting foods high in saturated fat, such as fatty meats, full-fat dairy products, as well as foods high in added sugar like soda and sweets. The DASH eating plan is notably low fat and low sodium, suggesting a sodium limit of 1,500 milligrams per day to support lower blood pressure and heart health. And it can be a really good eating pattern for most people. Along with lowering blood pressure, the DASH eating plan may lower LDL cholesterol and reduce your risk for heart disease. Next slide, please. So transitioning briefly to talking about where we find our nutrition information. So studies have shown that about half of all online nutrition information is inaccurate. And my guess is really that number may be even higher for cancer-related nutrition information. Let's talk a bit about how to find evidence-based information, or information that is based in sound science. So the guidance you are receiving has some weight to it. So some general guidelines include looking for websites that end in .gov, .edu, or .org. Evidence-based information comes from research in large populations of humans, not cells or mice, that can be replicated. So the quality of the study is very important. We cannot make claims based on any singular or poorly designed studies. You can look to accredited cancer center websites for educational resources. Professional scientific websites are also a great resource. When reviewing information, I recommend asking yourself questions such as, what is the purpose of this website? Who wrote or reviewed this information? When was the information written or updated? And I would encourage you just to approach any nutrition information that you read or hear with curiosity until you can verify that the information is based in science by consulting a trusted website or trusted healthcare professional. And as always, do discuss any information that you read or hear with your healthcare team before you make any changes. Next slide, please. So we are not going to discuss supplements today, but there are some important messages to address about where your nutrients come from. It is optimal to consume your nutrients from whole foods instead of supplements. Supplements have not been shown to prevent or treat cancer. When you eat whole food, your body uses many components from that food that all work together to support your health, not just one isolated nutrient. So you cannot replicate food with supplements. Do aim to consume your nutrients from whole foods in the form that we find them in nature. There are many supplements that can change the effectiveness of some medications or therapies. Some supplements may increase your risk for some cancers or may not be indicated for your individual situation. We have very little to no evidence for many supplements, especially when relating to people living with cancer or receiving cancer treatment. There are times when you have a medical need to take a specific supplement. This should be in collaboration with your healthcare team. If your doctor prescribes a supplement, it is very important that you do take that supplement. If you have any concerns about this or about supplements, please do talk to your doctor about what your individual nutrient needs might be before starting any nutrition supplement. And next slide, please. So nutrition can also be used to support your immune system. And here are some ways that you can keep your immune system as strong as it can be when you are living with MDS. It is helpful to work to decrease your risk for malnutrition by eating regularly throughout the day, working with your healthcare team early on to manage side effects that impact nutrition when they start. This may include side effects such as decreased appetite, unintended weight loss, feeling full early, nausea, fatigue, constipation, or diarrhea. And don't significantly change the way that you eat by eliminating whole food groups before consulting a dietitian or healthcare professional. You can also decrease your risk for malnutrition by aiming to maintain your weight as best as possible. Living with cancer or going through cancer treatment should not be a weight loss plan, and you may find that you need more nutrition to maintain your weight. Adequate nutrition is really key in supporting your immune system. It is not just a few particular nutrients that are helpful for your immune system. There are many different components in food that play a role and are important. So some of these important components include consuming adequate protein. It doesn't mean that more protein is always better, but consuming enough is important. Do include foods that contain omega-3 fatty acids, such as fatty fish, flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, and some plant oils, such as flaxseed oil, soybean oil, and canola oil. It is important to choose foods that are rich in vitamins and minerals, including foods in the eating patterns we talked about earlier. Do aim to include a variety of foods to receive a variety of nutrients. And also consume a variety of phytochemicals, which, if you remember from earlier, phytochemicals are found in plant foods and do good things in our bodies. So do consume a variety of fruits and vegetables through the week. There's not one magical food that you must eat for your immune system. If you don't like kale, that's cool. Just include the foods that you do like. And don't be afraid to try new fruits or vegetables or try them prepared in a different way. And we'll share some recipes at the end that can be helpful in finding dishes that help to introduce more plants to your diet if you are interested. And with that, I will turn it over to Margaret.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today on World Cancer Day. Thank you for joining us. Well, just a little bit about my why. Many of my family members have experienced cancer, so I observed how important nutrition is and got involved with them and trying to help them eat as well as they could. So, as many of you, you've probably been a caregiver as well for your loved ones. So thank you for being here today. Let's see, Ellie, do I need to do something special to have my picture showing? Well, we can proceed. Next slide, please. Thank you. Well, today we'll be talking about, or I'll be focusing on managing side effects. These side effects can be from your MDS, or they can be from your treatment, or sometimes they're from other health issues that you might experience. So let's dive in to managing health and side effects. Next slide. As you know, there are many side effects for MDS and treatment. Today, we thought we'd like to focus on 4 side effects: fatigue, low blood cell counts, appetite changes, and digestive issues. Next slide. Let's start with being physically active as you are able. Physical activity or physical movement is one of the strategies to manage fatigue that it's actually shown in research to be helpful. Work with a physical therapist if you can. Don't do more than you are able to do safely. Start slowly, maybe 5 or 10 minutes at a time, spread out 2 or 3 times over the course of the day. Secondly, eat often throughout the day. You're like a really expensive luxury sports car. In order to get to where you need to go every day, it's important to put fuel in your car and use pretty good fuel as well. So think about your car, your luxury car. The only difference is you only have a 3 or 4 gallon gas tank. So it's nice to try to fill up every 2 to 3 hours if possible. Also, Heather mentioned protein. Your protein needs usually increase during treatment. Why would you say that? Well, you need extra protein to actually rebuild healthy cells, tissues, and veins that your treatment or disease may destroy. So in order to do that, to stay healthy, it's important to try to use extra protein throughout the day with each meal and at least 1 snack a day. Heather talked a lot about what protein is, so use the proteins that you enjoy and like and can use often. Hydration is important for many reasons, but low hydration can make people feel even more tired and fatigued. So having a plan for your hydration during the day is as important as having a schedule of eating. Try to sip some fluids throughout the day instead of filling up on 12 or 16 ounces at one time. Hydration is used as a big term, but we think of hydration as water, tea and coffee that's unsweetened, juices, milk, soup, Jell-O, popsicles. So hydration can be many things. So use some fluids that you really enjoy. Also, if you have fatigue or tiredness, it's okay to use some easily prepared foods or pre-prepared foods, maybe some foods that are already chopped, or maybe have an entree that you can just go from the freezer to the oven. These foods are still highly nutritious, and that way you're saving your energy to actually eat and enjoy your meal, not to get too tired preparing the meal. A lot of our frozen foods are also now made without added sodium. So that's something to look for if you're very sensitive to sodium, part of the salt molecule. And one thing I can't stress enough is discuss your fatigue and tiredness with your doctor. Many other things can trigger fatigue, such as anemia, changes in your electrolyte values in your blood, or other health conditions like perhaps hypertension or diabetes. So keep an open dialogue about fatigue with your healthcare provider. Next slide, Ellie. The second side effect we're going to talk about is low blood cell counts. Low blood cell counts can cause a cascade of other problems, like making you more susceptible to infections, illness, and foodborne illness. So first, practice food safety. Food safety is important for everyone, and we'll touch on that a little later, but it's especially true during cancer care. Add iron-rich foods throughout the day. Meats, veggies, fortified grains like cereals, oatmeal, and other grains are good sources of iron, as are legumes, fish, and eggs. Meat is the best source of iron because it's the most absorbable. So if you are open to eating meat and you need to eat more iron, that's a good choice for you. But switch it up during the week. Also, if you have a low iron level in your blood, be sure that you have vitamin C sources regularly, along with protein. Vitamin C sources help you absorb iron into your red blood cells. So tomatoes, oranges, melons can really help. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of water. Eating on a schedule helps your low blood cell counts. Remember, you're like a very expensive car, and you need to refuel every 2 to 4 hours. That way you're not needing to use other food sources in your body, like muscles or lean body tissue, to fuel your energy. So eat on a schedule. I like to think about each meal can start with foods from at least 2 different food groups. So it could be a protein food with another food, like a vegetable, fruit, or grain at the minimum. You can always have more than 2 food groups, but that's a good place to start. And make every bite count as you're going on this journey. Choose fortified foods that might have extra nutrients, like fortified soups, cereals, beverages. And if you like plant milks, try fortified soy or fortified cashew milk. That way, you're not having to add more foods to your day, but you're using fortified foods along the way. And always discuss your low blood cell counts with your physician before changing your diet. Next. Now let's move on to food safety. What is food safety? We heard a lot about food safety during COVID, some good facts, some misinformation, but know what your food safety guidelines are for you. Avoid the high-risk food choices, such as bean sprouts, sushi with meat or uncooked fish, unpasteurized juices, and undercooked eggs, meat, and chicken. Your particular cancer center may have their own specific guidelines for you, so check with them as well. A very important thing to add to your kitchen, if you don't have one already, is your meat thermometer. A meat thermometer lets you know what temperature your meat, eggs, or fish are before you start to eat them. So that's very important to have. Also, look for expiration dates on products. Start at the grocery. When you have a shopping list and you're looking for a particular item, try to find the item that is within the use by date or expiration date. Use cooked meat instead of deli meat in sandwiches and wraps. Cooked meat has less preservatives and they're exposed to less bacteria. So if you have some chicken left over or some tuna, use that to make a sandwich instead of buying them in the deli counter. Foods at a deli counter aren't always prepared to the food standards. And next, store food within 1 or 2 hours of serving. That's especially important to help you keep your food safe. If you're too tired to put the food up, maybe divide activities with your loved ones or whoever you're dining with. If you serve the food, maybe someone else can store it and date it and put it in the fridge for you. And I do recommend dating your leftovers and using them within 1 to 3 days of placing them in your fridge. Always discuss food safety with the people around you or people that may be helping you with your food shopping, preparation, and storage. Next slide. Let's talk about appetite changes. Poor appetite is probably the second side effect we hear about most, fatigue being the highest, the first thing we hear about most. But appetite changes occur frequently. So try to eat on a schedule, not based on your hunger or appetite level. Did you know that your appetite signals and sensors in your body can be damaged by cancer treatments or other medication? So don't rely on your hunger level to eat. eat on a schedule. Consume small meals, but have them more frequently. In some protocols, people are not able to eat a lot of food at any one time. They feel full quickly. We call that also early satiety. The answer to managing that, or one strategy, is to eat small meals, but no, you can have a snack or another meal soon. When you have a small meal, eat the most nutritious food near the beginning or middle of the meal. For instance, your protein. Don't fill up on salad or bread. You can have those, but just make sure you get your protein in. Also, pay attention to you and your body. Be in touch. Plan to eat larger meals when you are the hungriest. Some people wake up with a great appetite and have their larger meal in the morning. Other people don't have a great appetite in the morning, so they plan to have their larger meal at noon or as dinner. Be aware of how food aromas affect you. The smell of food, the aroma of food cooking can be a turnoff to some people. So if that's you, try to make sure you use a fan to divert the air and the aroma away from you. Go to another room. Ask people to cook for you and maybe bring the food to you. Cool foods and foods that are cold in temperature have less aroma than hot, steamy foods like chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. So it's okay to have a chicken sandwich, or it's okay to have maybe fruit, cheese, and whole grain crackers. They're low aroma if you need to stick to the foods with less smell. If you're tired, use a shake, a sandwich, smoothie, or soup for a really quick meal. You don't have to cook a lot to eat well. Your appetite might be better if you don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So make a list of easy, quick meals that work for you and your family. When you go to appointments, don't lose that opportunity to eat. So take something with you if you can. That helps support a better appetite. Keep foods and snacks easily prepared for you and readily available. Some people get a snack basket every day or a container of snacks you enjoy to be with you as you sit, go to work, or go to appointments. And lastly, manage any side effects that may affect your appetite. Digestive issues, which we'll talk about in a minute, can decrease your appetite. Changes in blood sugar and blood pressure can change your appetite. So work with your doctor to manage other side effects as well as your appetite. Next, let's talk about digestive issues. There are many types of digestive issues, but today we thought we would concentrate on the following: gas and bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and of course, loss of appetite from digestive issues, nausea and vomiting, and others. So keep the discussion going about digestive issues with your doctor. They don't get offended if you need to talk about them, so be open to discuss those. Next. All right, next slide. So digestive issues are different for everyone, aren't they? One we've talked about is, eating often to help manage your digestive issues. Your body in treatment and during cancer often becomes less efficient in its digestive functions. So instead of being able to eat the same thing maybe you had 10 or 15 years ago at a meal, you might need to use foods that are gentler on your stomach. Eat small amounts. Your digestive system may be more efficient if you eat small meals. Next, learn more about fiber. There are different types of fiber. If you're having constipation, you may need more insoluble fiber, the types of fiber that aren't digested in your body, but they do help you have a nice bowel movement. If you're having constipation, use more foods that have soluble fiber, like oatmeal, toast, canned fruit, cooked vegetables, banana, etc. So know a little bit about what fiber might be best for you. And we do have that on our website. Also, limit foods and beverages and maybe physical activities that may cause gas or diarrhea. Keep a food log if you can, and note what side effects you may have after that food, what activity you might do that day, or medication. Some foods are gassy, like beans, peas, fried foods, and foods with high spice levels. If you enjoy those, maybe just have small servings, or maybe use them every other day, as in beans, but perhaps not every day. Some foods can cause diarrhea. As we get older, or with different medical problems, we may have a decreased secretion of digestive enzymes. So sometimes we need to modify the food to help you digest it. Lactose is one of the most frequent digestive problems or intolerances on the cancer journey, so choose lactose-free milks. If you have problems digesting vegetables or fruits with peelings, try peeling those and see if that doesn't help you digest them better. Also, wearing tight clothing, leaning over right after a meal, doing activity at a high level can sometimes cause gas, reflux, and diarrhea in some people. So continue to listen to your body and see what activities are right for you at what time of day. Also, when we think of hydration and digestion, hydration we also often time with a meal, don't we? We think about what we're going to put on our plate, but also what beverage may go good with that. So take sips of hydration with the meal, but don't let your fluids take the place of your meal. If you have something that's a more high-calorie beverage, maybe have it as a snack to allow you to have real food and eat more of food at a meal. And finally, ask your provider about medications to help with digestion. Many people with whom we speak aren't able to control their constipation and diarrhea just by lifestyle choices like food, beverages, and physical activity. So be open to discussing that with your healthcare team. And finally, many people ask us about the gut microbiome. Some people say that's our second brain, but the gut microbiome is the collection of many types, hundreds and thousands of types of bacteria in our gut. We make 70 to 80% of our immune cells in our gut. So if we can be good to our digestive system in our gut, we hope that you will have a higher amount and a larger quantity of good bacteria in your gut. Part of that is using a variety of plants through the week. Heather talked about plant-based eating, the Mediterranean meal plan, etc. There's a wide variety of plants that were displayed there. So try to use variety within each food group. Try to have several fruits and vegetable types during the week. The more types of fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts and seeds that you use, the wider and healthier your gut microbiome often is. If you're interested in the gut microbiome, you might look up the American Gut Project. That has great information about keeping your gut healthy. Next. And just a word about some of our newest publications that really help people with digestive juices. Last year, at the request of a patient's caregiver, we developed some quick fact sheets that list foods in a beautiful visual way to help you manage diarrhea, constipation, and nausea. You can post these food sheets on your refrigerator. You can share them with your caregiver. And you can also use them as a reminder when a grocery list is being prepared. So don't let your digestive issues control your day or your food restrictions. Always talk with your doctor about them. They can help. Next, dietary restrictions. Based on you and the medications you might use, you may have some dietary restrictions or have advice on timing of your medications. Let's look at a few of those. And these are all illustrated in our beautiful handbook, the MDS Guide, Information for Parents and Caregivers. So ivosidenib, it's recommended to avoid high-fat foods when taking your dose of the medication. Save those foods for later in the day. Venetoclax has the warning to avoid grapefruit, star fruit, and Seville oranges. Seville oranges are also called blood red oranges, and that is the main ingredient in orange marmalade. So you would need to avoid orange marmalade. These fruits cause venetoclax not to be excreted from your body, on a timely basis, so it can cause side effects. Also, lenalidomide, I never can say that, often can cause diarrhea. So you really want to avoid other food choices that trigger diarrhea, like beverages with alcohol, high in soluble fiber, and lactose. So try to limit those if you feel that helps you. And cyclosporine has the warning to avoid alcohol and grapefruit. Now, not a dietary restriction, but a schedule of timing of medications is important for the last two medications. Be sure to space your meals out 2 hours before your medication or after your medication. And remember, you can always consult your treatment team or clinical pharmacist about your medication instructions. Next slide.
Thank you, Margaret and Heather, for both of your expertise. I hope that you all enjoyed hearing from our dietitians. And as promised, I wanted to revisit the LLS Nutrition website and what all is available to you online. You can access our website at llsnutrition.org. On this page, this is where you can click in to schedule your one-on-one nutrition consultation with either Heather or Margaret. These consultations are offered over the phone and they are free of charge. If you have questions specific to your treatment experience or side effects that you may need further information about, please go ahead and schedule an appointment to speak with one of our dietitians. We also host a video library available on the NESC website. We include supermarket tours, which cover healthy eating choices, food safety regulations, and explaining food labels. There are some quick and nutritious recipes that you can try at home, and our side effect series, which covers common cancer-related side effects like fatigue, weight gain or loss, or appetite concerns. If you're thinking of a topic that we weren't able to cover today, we likely have a video available for you on our website. Also found on our website are some print materials that you can download or order for free. Our nutrition handbook is one of our most popular booklets offered at LLS. The handbook provides tips and resources that you can use to help you prepare healthy meals for you and your family. Our nutrition resources and tips page, it is a fact sheet that provides information that can help you save money and access healthy foods. We also have a handful of one-pagers that provide suggestions to help manage certain side effects that Margaret has referenced already. I would encourage you to take a look online and see what might be helpful for you. You can download or view them from your computer or phone, or you can also order them to your home for free. And then the LLS Health Manager app is a wonderful resource that you can download to your phone and keep in your pocket. This new app, you can export information that you've tracked in a calendar format and share it with your doctor to identify patterns and develop strategies to help you manage your side effects. There are tons of helpful features on the app, and just a few of them include the side effect tracker, medication tracker. There's also food and hydration trackers. You can obtain questions for your doctors and keep lists of questions and concerns that you would like to speak with them at your next appointment. You can also create grocery lists and meal plans in the app as well. So I would encourage you taking a look at the Health Manager app. Here we have some additional nutrition and cancer resources from some other helpful organizations. As we said, Google and online searching for information can be overwhelming and can often come from places that are not credited to do so. We suggest using some of these pages that are trustworthy and offer credible information about nutrition and cancer. And then these are some additional plant-based recipe pages. And obviously, I do not expect you to write all of these down at this moment, so we'll be sharing some in the chat, and you can reference the slides after our presentation and take a look at them later on. And then just to wrap everything up, we would like to say a final thank you for joining us today and watching our nutrition webinar. We would like to extend a huge thank you to the MDS Foundation for partnering with us to provide this program for you today. We recognize the important work that is happening at the MDS Foundation, and we hope that the information that you received today was helpful, tangible, and useful. Thank you for spending time with us, and I will now pass it back to Janice and Ashley to moderate the Q&A.
Thank you, Ellie. And thank you, Heather and Margaret, for your very informative presentations. We appreciate your time today. We're going to go ahead and start with our live Q&A. Please submit any questions you have at the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. We're going to start with Katie. Some of us have ring setter blasts and need to limit iron, but also get more protein, especially for vegetarians. What do you suggest? I'm well familiar with a Mediterranean diet. It's what I eat. So Margaret or Heather, can either one of you? Yes.
Well, I think limiting your iron can be accomplished in several ways, and Heather, feel free to chime in here. But using less red meat, chicken and fish, or poultry and fish, is one way to limit iron. You can use more plant-based irons sources. Plant-based foods have iron, but they're only absorbed in very low amounts, say the average of 35 to 40%. So that's one way to limit iron absorption.
Mm-hmm. The other little tip may be including some things that may reduce iron absorption when you are consuming high iron foods, such as foods that are high in calcium. So adding a glass of milk with your meal, or having some tea or coffee with your meal may also reduce iron absorption of those foods when you include them together. Yeah. Good question.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Edith. She's a vegan and a pescatarian with a cow's milk allergy. She's asking for help.
Heather, do you want to take that one?
I would love to, yes. And so, within the meal patterns that we discussed today, there are many different dairy alternatives. If you're interested in those, milks like soy milk or almond milk are available. Lots of protein options as well that really fit in to any of those eating patterns. Beans and lentils are an excellent protein source. Soy proteins like edamame or tofu or tempeh are great options. Seitan, or the protein portion of wheat, makes a really versatile protein source. Things like nuts and seeds and a lot of whole grains are a decent protein source. especially those ones that are a little bit longer cooking, like the hard whole grains that take, a good 30 to 40 minutes to cook, typically have a little bit more protein. And certainly if you have more questions regarding your specific situation, do feel free to schedule a nutrition consult with us, and we can talk a little bit more in depth about what your challenges might be.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Katie. What about galangal or certain mushrooms? Lion's mane, turkey tail, or reishi? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You did a great job.
Great.
So these are all natural foods and spices. If you enjoy the flavor of the different mushrooms and the spice, ganglion, I'd encourage you to use them. We encourage the use of real food to season and flavor your foods and spice them up if you can handle the spice. We don't recommend using supplements of these plants because we don't really know what is in supplements, as Heather's spoke about. But they're great to use to flavor your foods, plants, herbs, and spices. In their chat, we're going to push out a link for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. If you do want to research any plants or spices or supplements, you can see the benefits and risks of the different plants.
Okay, great. Our next question is from Ben. Does increased beef in the diet help with low hemoglobin?
Heather, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. And so I think it's important for us to back up just a little bit and make sure that you and your doctor are on the same page about why your hemoglobin may be low. Sometimes it might be low because you have an iron deficiency, but there are other things that can make your hemoglobin be low, such as inadequate intake of vitamin B12 or folate, or other things. So first, kind of know why that's happening so you can address it properly. If it is because your iron level is low, certainly beef can be one way to increase iron in your diet. There are both plant-based and animal-based sources of that. If you have a low iron level and you enjoy beef, I would say go ahead and, feel free to eat a little bit more beef than might be recommended. And that's kind of adjusting your diet for your current side effects or situation that you're in.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is from Lori. What is your take on a high alkaline diet?
All righty.
Yeah. Do you want me to take it or sorry?
Oh, I can speak to it and you can add to. Well, there's no medical evidence that the high alkaline diet is going to improve your cancer outcome or improve your health. That being said, there are some wonderful foods that are emphasized on the high alkaline diet, aren't they? So I think, there's good points of the high alkaline diet with the veggies and other things. But I don't recommend it for people because it's too restrictive and you may not be able to meet all your dietary needs. Heather, you want to add to?
Yeah, I think that was great. And I think that, although we don't have evidence that that's helpful, it is ironic that the foods that are on the diet are also a lot of the plant-based foods that we do know are helpful from other aspects. And, know that your body's got your back sometimes, and, you can't change the pH level or make it more acidic or alkaline simply from the food that you eat. Your body keeps that pH level within a really tight range to keep you alive, essentially. So, yeah, good question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Question, well, not so much a question, but Susan says that she finds that using the herb thyme liberally reduces gas for her. I guess if that's a helpful hint for everyone, or if you know of that.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
It is neat.
Okay, and Sherry wants to know how she makes an appointment with nutritionists from LLS.
Absolutely. We'll put it in the chat again, but you can use our online calendar and choose a appointment at llsnutrition.org/schedule. Or you can give us a call, 877-467-1936. If we're not by the phone, please leave a detailed message with your contact info and the best days and time during the work week to reach out to you.
Great. Terry wants to know what you recommend cleaning food like fruit, vegetables, etc., to avoid salmonella and other issues.
Heather?
Yeah. So the current recommendations are to wash produce well with running water. And I would encourage you, like if there's any debris on there, to use either a clean cloth or clean hands to scrub the produce. Certainly, if you have things that are maybe a little trickier to clean, like raspberries or blueberries, you may soak them in some water first, as long as you are rinsing them off with cold water at the end. We know that is sufficient. And we see there's no evidence that any of the kind of specialized or marketed produce washes compare to or are any better than just using running water.
Okay, great. Janice wants to know, is there any nutrition information related specifically to those of us that MDS patients that are on luspatercept?
Well, I'm looking that up right now, Janice. I do not see any specific nutrition caveats for that medication, but you can always check with your clinical pharmacist or prescribing provider just to be sure.
Oh, great, thank you. Question from Linda. She said her husband will be undergoing 12 days of blood transfusions. Should she be more concerned with reducing his iron intake?
There's no standard recommendation that I'm aware of to change your diet or, have any restrictions through that. Although everybody's individual situation may be different, I would encourage her to, talk to the doctor or staff at the clinic to ask if that's something that they would like him to change.
Thank you. Karen says she has several health issues and some foods are good for MDS, but not good for CKD or thyroid. What can you suggest for good food planning?
So I think in a lot of those situations, for example, if there are specific foods that you might need to avoid because of a thyroid condition or other, starting with kind of a base of one of these plant-based eating plans and maybe kind of crossing those foods off the list. There's tons of different fruits and vegetables, for example. So if, broccoli isn't an option for her, there's a lot of other fruits and vegetables that offer some of the same nutrients. Sometimes combining several different conditions can be a little bit tricky. And I think, that's when consulting, scheduling a nutrition consult or finding a dietitian that you can work with to kind of do those nitty-gritty details of planning specifically for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. A question from Wayne. Says he drinks 3 ounces of prune juice daily to deal with his constipation problem. He wants to know if there's any problem with consuming the prune juice every day, daily.
Well, Wayne, I think prune juice is a wonderful natural way that helps many people manage their constipation. It's a minimally processed food. It has lots of nutrients in it and a special fiber that often, can help people with their digestive issues. So I would say thumbs up on prune juice.
Great, thank you. My mom always used to push that prune juice on me. Lori said about cleaning your fruits and vegetables with baking soda and water. So I think that I've also seen that that's a good way to clean your vegetables too. Is there any helpful hints for specific patients using Procrit? Linda wants to know.
Oh, gosh, I am not sure.
Well, I can just start off. Some people that use Procrit that speak with us say that it sometimes gives them discomfort, tiredness, or pain. So I would plan ahead, around the time you're going to have your Procrit, to have some easily or pre-prepared foods around that you can access.
Mm-hmm. And I think, when it comes to like specific medications, there are some that have very specific things to avoid because there may be an interaction. But a majority of them, like managing nutrition around that, really comes down to managing the side effects, like Margaret mentioned, that those medications might cause.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Philip wants to know, are there any diets available that are specific to his type of very low risk MDS? Most nutrition recommendations are more general for cancer.
Mm-hmm. Good question, Philip. So, gosh, unfortunately, nutrition is a fairly new science in the scope of things. Certainly, cancer and nutrition is not that old compared to other sciences, certainly. We don't know a lot of details. However, a lot of the studies that we are seeing about, specific types of blood cancers, which, gosh, as we all know, has a lot less information available than, more solid tumor types, really is pointing us to still that a wide variety of plant-based foods and lean proteins is what we know at this point is helpful. It might sound kind of simple or generalized cancer guidance, but lots and lots of studies on many cancer types do point us in that direction. And I'm really hopeful that someday, hopefully soon, that we will be able to invest in more research and learn kind of those details for each cancer type to help more specifically.
Great. Thank you, Heather. Okay, I have another question is, how do I eat green leafy vegetables with Crohn's?
Well, I can speak to that. I think you said, how can I eat green leafy vegetables with Crohn's disease?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty specific to each person. Some people can put some baby green leafy veggies into a soup after chopping them finely, or in a smoothie. When we put things in a smoothie, it pulverizes them, doesn't it? Or purees them. Some people are more able to digest them with Crohn's that way. Certainly having a frequency for green leafy veggies, it may not be every day. It might be every 2 days. So some people tolerate veggies like green leafies infrequently, not every day, and in small amounts as well. Anything to add, Heather?
Not that I can think of. I think, sticking to more cooked versions is helpful, and, start with really small portions to see what you tolerate. You might be able to tolerate a little in the cooked category, or adding little bits, or even blending soup. If the whole piece is even cooked or bothersome, try blending a soup and see if that helps, kind of like the smoothie. Yeah.
A lot of people invest in an immersion blender, which is just a handheld blender you put in your soup or stew, that you can make things in a more pulverized or easily absorbed fashion. So that's nice if you have one of those, or maybe a mini blender to use for soups, smoothies, and sauces.
Yeah. I think too, this maybe raises a point that, we all hear about superfoods, we have to eat kale every day, or berries, or all of these things. And yes, we definitely would encourage a variety. But that superfoods is really a media created kind of term and phenomenon. And so I feel like even personally, you'll read things and you're like, oh gosh, I really need to eat more berries. And yes, they're good, but when you have a condition that you really can't tolerate it, or it takes a lot of extra work, it's okay not to maybe choose those as often, and find other things that you do tolerate well, that fit into your time and cooking schedule kind of for the day to day. Getting a variety is helpful, but certainly it doesn't mean that, every food might work, right? You might not tolerate any leafy greens, and that's okay. Maybe we'll find some other green things that work okay.
Great answer. Thank you so much. Another question says they love cheese, but want to know, should they avoid it?
How about moderation? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Margaret.
I was just going to say, I believe cheese and low-fat dairy do have a place, in the meal planning structure. It's all about what you can digest. Hard cheese has much less lactose than a glass of milk or a scoop of ice cream. So I think cheese can be a good way to get protein and calcium. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah. So that was a really great answer. And I think, when we talk about how much, animal-based foods in our diet, and kind of think okay, up to about a third of your diet, you certainly have to kind of budget in there, what is most important to you? What do you enjoy eating? Where can you find variety? Cheese absolutely fits in there. Maybe it shouldn't make up the whole third of your plate every meal, every day. But so do include variety. But if you enjoy cheese, I think, that's a good reason for it to be part of your regular intake.
That's good to know, because I love cheese too. Are vitamins or supplements like curcumin or green tea powder helpful? How can I prepare myself nutritionally for transplant?
So before transplant, definitely do have a conversation with your transplant team about supplements. A lot of the evidence really, if you want to include those things, consuming them in the whole food form, where you get all of the other benefit from those plants. And so things like, drinking green tea during the day, including that as part of your fluid intake, is a great option. When it comes to turmeric, you can use the powdered turmeric in cooking, or add little bits to smoothies or soup. Or the turmeric root is kind of fun to use. It's kind of like ginger. It looks like little fingers, kind of like a skinnier ginger root. And I find you can use that in cooking in most dishes that you would add ginger or garlic to. You can grate it in there. As long as you don't go overboard, it tastes I don't notice any difference in the taste. But, I think too, like I know those get a lot of attention, and we do have a little bit more research on certain herbs, but they all have benefits to offer. And so I would encourage you maybe to, yes, include those if you would like, but also include other seasonings and spices and herbs, fresh or dried, to your meal as well to get a really well-rounded benefit.
Great. Thank you so much. What are the best foods to counter nausea and maintain weight?
Well, nausea can be a trigger, for unintended weight loss. So I'm glad you're interested in managing your nausea. So a couple things come to mind. One is what we call dry carbs. You still make 1 to 2 tablespoons of digestive juices every hour, even if you're not eating. If you don't have something on your stomach for those digestive juices to work on, nausea can come, or you might increase your risk for nausea. So eating often, keeping some dry carbs with you, like dry cereal, pretzels, crackers, whatever works for you. Some people like the little ginger snaps before you arise from the bed in the morning. If morning nausea is a frequent occurrence, have some dry carbs before you get out of bed. Keep them with you as you go through the day. Low aroma foods typically do not trigger nausea as much as foods with high aroma, like fish, fried foods, and highly spiced foods. And of course, ginger helps some people. Ginger tea, ginger rice, ginger snaps. They're ginger beverages. We have a nice ginger beverage and ginger rice recipe on our website you could try as well. Some people find relief with mint. Some people don't. But those are just a couple things that may help you.
Okay, great. A question from Linda. She wants to know how you feel about probiotics, and is there any certain probiotic that you recommend?
I think as much as we have learned about probiotics, every time we attend a conference and the expert researcher on probiotics comes up to speak and says, we really don't know a lot about probiotics. And so, meaning, we don't know a lot about which probiotics to match with different conditions, largely speaking. And so I always encourage consuming a lot of foods with probiotics. Getting more variety or even different brands can expose you to really a wider range of different probiotics. So things like yogurt or kefir or, different fermented vegetables like kimchi or sauerkraut. Some pickles are fermented. If you are interested in plant-based proteins, tempeh, a vegetarian vegan protein source, is fermented. But just getting that variety, even if you're like, oh, out of those foods, I only really like yogurt, I would, encourage you maybe buy different brands of yogurt every now and then. It doesn't take a lot of a food to introduce that bacteria to your gut.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is, are there any foods to increase my platelets?
Are there any foods to increase my platelets? We get that question every day. I think my connection is not good. Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. Alrighty. There is no one diet to increase your platelets, although I do see that a lot on social media. What we suggest is try to make sure nutrition has a good foundation in your lifestyle, getting enough calories and protein. if you need to make new cells like platelets, you have to have enough protein and calories and variety in your meals and snacks. So there's not one diet per se, but any of the healthy eating plans that presented today would be a wonderful start or foundation for you.
Great, thank you. Should sugar be avoided for more than the usual reasons?
Short answer, I would say no. Yes, we do want everybody to limit added sugar intake for all of those reasons and many health conditions. But it doesn't mean no sugar. And, commonly I think all of us have probably maybe heard like sugar feeds cancer. And that statement is a lot more nuanced than it comes across. Consuming small amounts of added sugar every now and then does not directly cause your cancer to grow or change or progress. And if it did, that would be really easy and we could all go home. But that is not the case. And so certainly, being mindful and consuming it in small amounts and in moderation is absolutely okay to do.
That's good to know. I have heard that statement plenty of times. And I do love sugar.
Yeah. And, we think our brains are kind of programmed, in nature when we didn't have, dietitians, I guess, telling us what food was safe to consume, right? Most sweet foods in nature are safe. And so, our brain says, oh, sweet foods are good. That's a safe food.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you. Another question is, what determines whether or not you're immunocompromised, and what kind of diet restrictions does an immunocompromised person have?
Well, I can take that one. Immunocompromised state is something you can discuss with your medical team, absolutely. But generally, if you are prone to infections, colds, upset tummy, you probably are immunocompromised as well if you are in cancer treatment as well. Heather, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that was good. You may be immunocompromised because of your condition or because of a treatment or at risk for becoming immunocompromised. Often with treatment, you're at risk for being immunocompromised maybe in between each treatment. From a nutrition standpoint, getting good, adequate nutrition is important. And following all of those food safety tips that Margaret recommended would be a priority for nutrition.
Okay, great. Someone said they saw a study recently implying that 65 or older people with higher BMIs, including obesity, are associated with a longer lifespan, health span than normal and underweight. They say they exercise regularly for decades. They eat healthy, organic, and variety of foods, maintain a normal BMI. Should they try to gain a few pounds as they age? They're 70 years old and healthy.
I guess I would recommend asking your doctor first if, with your kind of greater health history, if that, gaining weight is something that they would recommend. If you are a normal BMI and maintaining that weight and doing all of the things that we want you to do, like following a health supporting diet and exercising regularly as you're able, I think that is great. I guess when I kind of hear some of those studies, it reminds me that, right, like there are reasons that our metabolism changes as we get older. And it's really to protect our body and to, keep our organs healthy and prevent fractures. Even though, society might tell us that gaining weight is always bad. And so my guess is that your doctor might look at kind of your weight history, what was normal for you, and, what are maybe some of your other health risk factors. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Margaret.
No, I agree.
Okay, great. That's all the time we have for today for questions. And I would like to thank Ellie, Darrow, Margaret, Martin, and Heather Knutson for their time today from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, again, and for volunteering their time and expertise. And again, to Taiho Oncology for supporting this webinar program. This presentation will be available on the MDS Foundation website for on-demand viewing within 7 business days. I will be sending out an email to everyone that registered to let them know when it is available. I will also be sending a link to our patient and caregiver survey. We would appreciate if you would please take the time to complete this survey. This concludes our presentation for today. On behalf of the MDS Foundation, thank you for joining us and have a great day.